Hello, hello.
Hello.
Welcome to another episode of Resistance Reads, where we talk about power and resistance through literature. I'm Michael Kilman.
Matt Wellstrom.
And today's book, Let the Right One In.
Let the Right One In.
Our second vampire novel.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say a lesser vampire novel, but that's my opinion. I don't know if that's yours.
So Matt, we take turns doing summaries, right?
Yeah, and we take turns picking the books too.
Yes.
And somehow the summaries and the books have come uncoupled.
Yes.
This is interesting.
Yeah, so we ended up switching. I think that was because you were a slacker one week and I had to pick up your summary. I think that's what it worked.
Slacker, I might have been sick. Who can say?
Something, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, so I'm reading the summary, and the first thing Matt posts is like, "What the fuck is this? Why is this happening?" So then I text him. I'm like, "I think I enjoyed the book more than you did."
That's right.
Not that it was a bad book.
I wouldn't say it was a bad book. No.
I actually really enjoyed it, and we'll get into why after we do the synopsis here. A little historical context for the novel. This was written in 2004 by John Lindqvist.
Lindqvist? Yeah.
He's a
Lindqvist,
Swedish author.
Yeah.
And it definitely has kind of Salem's Lot sort of feel.
Yeah, I think you could very adequately describe it as a lesser Salem's Lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I don't...
I'm being shitty. I don't mean to be shitty. I'm sorry.
I really liked it, actually, and I'll talk about why later. It is set in the background of 1982 Sweden, and
Suburb of Stockholm.
a suburb of Stockholm, Blackenberg, which actually is where the author grew up. This was his debut novel that got all kinds of critical acclaim. So
it was a huge hit when it came out. I remember it coming out over here. It was like 3 or 4 years later, and it was like this, and also the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo were just like Swedish authors were on fire in the United States, man.
I never read A Girl with a Dragon Tattoo. I know this one was recommended to me over and over and over again, and I never got a chance to read it until now. I just have like a huge to be read
absolutely
list all over the place. So he actually was a stand-up comedian for 11 years.
Wild.
Before he wrote this book.
A wild thing to learn about somebody who wrote this book.
Right, because this is a very dark novel. There's not a hint of comedy.
I would not
anywhere.
say, yeah, absolutely
yeah.
not.
So it's a very intense novel. There's a lot of themes of like sexual abuse in this one in particular.
Yeah, and like I would say like themes of neglect, like neglectful parenting and stuff like that.
Yeah, loneliness, isolation, that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's a little bit of the background. I think one thing we should be thinking about is, so this was written in 2004. Matt very aptly pointed out, like 1980s is in like the height of the AIDS crisis.
1982 is like people are finding out about like normies are finding out about the AIDS crisis.
Right.
And freaking the fuck out about it. Absolutely.
And then also, this is in the middle of the Cold War. Well, not the middle, the tail end of the Cold War.
But one could also say like kind of the height or like a second peak of the Cold War.
Yeah, because, you have things ramping up with Reagan.
Yeah, we're well into our meddling in various parts of the world too.
Yeah, this is, what year was Iran-Contra?
Oh, this is going to be right around that.
Yeah, it's right around Iran-Contra.
Yeah, I think Iran-Contra was maybe going on in the late 70s, but people found out about it in the early 80s too.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff going on. There's numerous mentions in the newspaper that, in fact, there is and this was like a real event, there was a Swedish sub that like what was it, crashed or something?
Or I thought it was a Russian sub.
I'm sorry, not Swedish sub, Russian sub.
In a Swedish bay, yeah.
In a Swedish bay.
Like they just found it there basically.
Right. So it's like marooned or something. So it was like all over the headline news in the story in the very beginning of the book, and it kind of fades out. But it does give you some kind of like historical background to the kind of things that are going on. There's also Rubik's Cubes.
Oh, Rubik's Cubes are like the third main character of this book.
Central to the plot.
Essential and central. Absolutely.
Literally.
Yeah.
Literally changes the course of the story.
Twice.
Yes. So all right, let's dive into our synopsis.
All right, yeah, here we go. So Let the Right One In is a modern vampire story in the style of Stephen King, but less satisfying. That was probably where you were like, this dude doesn't like this book that much.
Yeah.
The story follows Oscar, a boy who has no real friends but does have a lot of bullies. Early in the novel, we learn that Oscar has a morbid fascination with notable murder cases and that he keeps a scrapbook of newspaper clippings related to said murders. Oscar's bullies regularly humiliate him by calling him Piggy, making him squeal like a pig. Also, in the first part of the novel, he has like a problem with incontinence, and he keeps like a foam ball in his pants to like catch stray pee. I think when he's being bullied, essentially.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes away over time, like the Swedish.
Yeah, it's
or like the
a
Russian sub in the Swedish Bay.
He like clearly has some. I mean, he's clearly like terrified all the time, and and I think that's like his obsession with the whole serial killer thing and like murder thing is like. You know, he very quickly, like right in the beginning of the book, he goes out and is like practicing stabbing a tree.
Yeah.
Because he's just imagining killing his bullies and
yeah,
you know
that covers my next thing that I was going to say. While he's stabbing his tree and pretending that it's Johnny and Thomas or Tomas, I suppose, his primary bullies. A young vampire girl overhears him, and she takes his murderous oaths to be expressions of his heart and decides to befriend him. The vampire's name is Eli or Ellie, you know, Eli. So like, however you want to say that in your head. I've been calling her Ellie. And over the course of several evening encounters, she and Oscar become friends. He loans her his Rubik's Cube, knockoff Rubik's Cube. And she decides not to feed on him in that moment. Oscar gets fully...
Well, and he also, like, he shows her hair. Like, I think that was the really kind of important point, because they're talking about the Rubik's Cube and they're playing with or whatever, and she's like leaning in to kind of like bite his neck, and he like strokes her face really gently. Yes. And she's like, why would you do that? Like, why did you do that to me?
Yeah, he thought she was making a pass, and I mean, she kind of was, but like, you know, to eat him.
To eat him, yes.
And then she like realizes that it was an act of kindness, and then he follows it up with another act of kindness, loaning her his toy. And yeah, Oscar gets fully fucked up by his bullies one day, who lash him across the face, and he has to tell Ellie, but not his mother, about the bullying he is experiencing. She encourages him to fight back in that moment, and he takes that to heart. While this is happening, the pedo that Ellie lives with, her Renfield, he poses as her father, and so they pass as like a father and daughter pair, but she's really in charge.
Yeah, she really has him under her spell in a lot of ways.
Yeah, enthralled, as it were. He calls her his beloved.
Mm-hmm.
This has caused a commotion. He's doing murders to acquire blood for her, and this has caused a commotion in the neighborhood, and the news has dubbed him, his name is Hawken, by the way, the ritual killer, and this is probably due to the nascent satanic panic that is about to blow up. That's another theme that really
that's true. That's true.
During a botched murder for Ellie, Hawken dumps acid all over himself, apparently as a form of protective suicide. I didn't think it made a lot of sense. We kind of discussed it, and maybe there's a reason for it, but yeah, that was like a weird move as a way to kill yourself.
Well, he's like, so Hawken is in the gym, and he's like trying to like corner a young boy, and he drugs him. He carries around these canisters to like drug kids, and then he like slits their throat, drains the blood, and then like gives it to Ellie to drink. Yeah. But like he botches the situation, and like a couple of men come in, and he's like, I guess he's like hiding in like, it's like a side room or something.
It's like a changing stall.
It's like a changing stall where so he's like hiding, and the boy wakes up and screams, and then he dumps.
It goes tits up.
It goes tits up, and he dumps a thing of acid over his head.
Yeah, it's just a weird method of self-elimination, you know. Yeah, so Ellie and Oscar grow closer, and he begins to piece together that she isn't like other girls. Oscar defends himself from Johnny and a lackey with a large tree branch and gives Johnny a concussion. This calms things down at school for a brief time. Everybody kind of thinks of him as a hero. Ellie feeds on a local woman named Virginia, but is interrupted by her piece of shit boyfriend. So instead of dying, the woman is infected. And this mostly relates to a side plot about some local drunks that isn't terribly interesting, but does contain an unforgettable scene containing a swarm of irate cats later in the book.
Oh yeah, that
thing
was...
will be. It's gonna live
Never forget it
in my memory forever. We can talk about that later. Oscar presses Ellie as to whether she's a vampire, and she kisses him, allowing him to see her past. In this vision, it becomes apparent that she grew up in an ancient vampire's fiefdom and was a boy until she was ritually castrated and turned into a vampire. After this incident, she begins presenting and identifying as female. So I will continue using the pronouns that her to refer to her throughout this summary. Even if Oscar vacillated, he went back and forth. Mostly started calling Ellie him in his head, and I thought that was interesting. The
narrative
and
changes
the
too.
narrator does too. Yeah, exactly. Ellie visits Hawken in the hospital out of pity, I guess, and is interrupted again while feeding on him. He jumps out the window to escape the hospital and pancakes himself since his room was on the 10th floor, and then I guess becomes a zombie because he wakes up later, but he doesn't behave like the other vampires we see in the book.
Yeah, the explanation for that was like...
his brain is dead.
His brain is dead.
But vampires have a little brain in their heart.
They have a second brain in their heart, and that's what drives the hunger. So if their body and their brain are physically dead, the hunger will continue on its own, but it'll be a mindless, monstrous sort of hunger. Mostly.
Kind of mostly mindless, because it's still a perv.
It's still a perv. But that's also a kind of... Yeah. That's also a kind of...
tying into that.
Yeah.
Later, Ellie has a violent, rapey encounter with Zombie Hawken, manages to fight him off, and accidentally traps him in a basement room with my favorite character, Tommy, not Tomas, an electronics burglar. He's like a older teen that Oscar hangs out with, and he's like Oscar's only actual friend in the book. Since Ellie blinded Hawken during her escape, Tommy eventually manages to pulp the zombie, but not kill it, because he doesn't know how, with his stepdad's marksmanship trophy, which he stole to fuck with him, which I think is right.
Dude, you have the scene with the cats in your head. I have the scene where he walks in, and the stepdad walks in and he's just like smashing him over and over again and crying.
Cry laughing,
because he's just smashing him in the head to keep the zombie from getting up and eating him. It was
whoa, right?
I mean, it is. There's some scenes in this book that you will never forget.
Truly though. On his way home from school one day, Oscar sees Hawken's picture on the A1 page of a local newspaper and realizes that this will lead the police to Ellie's apartment. He is rushing to warn her when he's set upon by Johnny and Tomas, and they nearly kill him by throwing him in front of a train that he just got off of. Oof. While recovering from her run-in with Hawken, Ellie is almost staked by Virginia's piece of shit boyfriend, but Oscar shows up in time and brains him with a real Rubik's Cube that he stole as a present for her. Except no substitutes. That one's heavier and does a good deal of damage. In revenge for their attack on him, Oscar sneaks into the school and lights Tomas and Johnny's desks on fire, not knowing that Johnny is keeping a keepsake of his father's in his desk at school. Oscar avoids school for several days after he lit it on fire. I mean, that makes sense to me. Mm-hmm. But is enticed back to school by his gym teacher, who happens to be a dope guy, a Spanish guy, who wants him to rejoin the after-school athletics club that he had recently joined in and was excelling at. Oscar has a fake friend whose name I forget. It's like Duhan, who has never stood by him when he was being bullied and might actually be feeding his bullies info.
He is feeding the bullies info.
Who finds out where Oscar will be and tells the bully brothers. They storm the club meeting, cosh Mr. Oliva, the gym teacher, and attempt to drown Oscar. Ellie swoops in with bat wings, pulls the brothers' heads off with her bare hands, and flies away with Oscar. What a cool moment. All the teenage witnesses react with the appropriate level of enthusiasm, kind of like pumping the air.
Well, they were like, it wasn't just, like, they were drowning him.
They were drowning him.
They literally were like, if you come up before
5 minutes.
Before 5 minutes pass, we will slit your throat.
Yep.
Like they were basically killing him.
Absolutely.
So when she flies in and
no,
they call her an angel afterwards.
I know,
like
right?
An angel of death.
Exactly. Ellie and Oscar then blow town. The end. That's a really brief synopsis of it. It's like a 500-page book, and I summed it up in one page, but I feel like that's the broad strokes.
Mhm.
And anything else we want to get into, like Oscar's relationship with his mom.
Yeah.
Or
Well, Oscar's also
I think
a
I
child
covered
of
everything
divorce.
else. Yep.
A child of divorce, and
His
there
dad
is-
sucks, like most dads do.
Yeah.
Sorry, man. I know you're a dad. You're a good dad.
Well,
but my dad,
you know, no one's perfect.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, he's a child of divorce, and so, but he spends most of the time with his mother, and so there's a lot of stuff about the relationship with his mom, in there for sure, and the relationship with his dad. He actually really loves his dad and hangs out with his dad, but his dad, was I reading this correctly? Is his dad gay? Like, is his dad
I don't know
like
if his dad is gay necessarily, but
It's-
his dad definitely has like a drinking buddy that he will like basically once that dude shows up, he just ignores Oscar
See, I
and they
had
get
the,
drunk together.
I thought the guy was his lover.
Totally possible.
That was the impression
Yeah.
that I got, that like, because Oscar's resentment seemed more than just like a friend showing up. It seemed like
Well, apparently this guy shows up every time. So
Yeah.
your read on him being, although he also, like, he'll leave before they fuck when Oscar's over. So like, theoretically, if Oscar's dad is gay and this dude is his lover, they never hook up when Oscar's around, which might just be because it's 1982 and that would be kind of inappropriate anyway.
right.
But like then Oscar's dad gets all maudlin and starts like apologizing for being a bad father. Then can sometimes get like angry
Yeah.
about his circumstances and shit like that. And so like in the one time we see Oscar go over to his dad's house in the book, Oscar then runs away during the party session,
Mhm.
the party portion of the evening.
Yeah.
And just like hitchhikes / takes a train back to his town,
Yeah.
Blackberry.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of, I think for me, I saw a lot of myself in both Oscar and Ellie as a kid,
fair
and I
enough.
think that's I really kind of connected to those two characters. Like I didn't need a little piss ball, I wasn't incontinent, but
Mhm.
man, I had to fight off bullies a lot.
Yeah.
And and I was a scrapper, so I did okay for myself.
Sure.
I wasn't as bad, but I mean, I had a couple of times when groups of kids jumped me.
Oh, dude, I
So
definitely
it
got.
was-
Yeah. No, I think we can all, like, any queer kid can understand the need to like be good at running or good at fighting.
Yeah.
And I was better at running than I was at fighting when I was a kid.
Yeah, my dad taught
Although
me.
one time I just had to deck a guy in the fucking passing period.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad taught me to fight when I was young because it was such a problem.
Yeah.
And I gave as good as I got it most of the time. So,
Yeah.
but it doesn't matter. Bullies don't, like, people are like, oh, you stand up to a bully, then they like, no, they get more interested because now you've challenged their authority.
See, for me, it actually, I did just really publicly like deck a guy
Mm-hmm.
and cold cock him because he thought he was gonna, knock me down again.
Mm-hmm.
And instead, I just fainted and gave him a left hook that I think surprised him enough that he just fell over. But then it was really public because it was in the fucking cafeteria area.
Yeah.
And so after that, he was just like, nah, it's not worth my trouble,
Yeah.
But you're right. As often, they will just get their friends together and then kick the shit out of
It
you.
escalates.
That also happened to me.
Yeah.
So, like,
So I think I kind of dealt with that or connected with that. I also so I wanted to kind of throw a little bit of anthropological theory at some of the ideas here
I'm very
because
surprised to hear this.
oh, very surprised.
Yeah.
Yes. So like, when we're talking about vampire stories in general, we're talking about people who don't fit well or neatly into categories. They're not alive or dead, or in the case of Ellie, she's not male or female.
Mhm.
She's female presenting, but she's also a eunuch.
Mhm.
And when she talks about herself, she says, "I'm neither boy nor girl. I'm neither."
Yeah, when pressed on the issue.
And then when Oscar finally sees her naked, there's nothing down there because they're a eunuch. She's castrated.
Yeah.
So, so there's this kind of a very famous book in anthropology from the late 1960s by Mary Douglas. It's called Purity and Danger: An Analysis of the Concepts of Taboo, and it really kind of looks at how do cultures identify what is good, what is clean, what is dirty, what is othered, those kinds of things. And like vampire stories very often, just as like we saw with Buffalo Hunter,
Yeah.
you have this person who is neither alive nor dead now, who is no longer either white or Indian because he has the white disease of the vampire. And so you kind of see this theme a lot of this kind of sense of purity and danger. And the other thing that happens too with kind of this otherness, this outcast, is it gets highly sexualized.
Absolutely.
Like, think about freak shows, right? So in this book, this is like very overt, right? The eunuch child who was ritually turned into a vampire, like the ritual is
yeah, it's
cutting things off and then drinking and eating
the
things.
Yeah.
And it never really goes into exactly how the vampiric sort of germ got into Ellie exactly, but like you can infer that like this went on, this ritual went on, this bloodletting went on for weeks.
Yeah.
It was a long time that Ellie experienced this. And like, so you're in this kind of othering category, and like it's also very clear that Oscar is neurodivergent as well.
Yeah,
that
probably queer too.
Well, he's definitely queer because he's like basically in love with Ellie.
Yeah, absolutely.
And doesn't care because Ellie asks him at one point, like, does it matter if I'm not a girl?
Right.
And he's like, no.
I think he
hesitates.
reacts strongly at first, and then like, especially for a kid in the 80s who like doesn't really know anything about anything, like he gets over it pretty quickly too.
He does get over pretty quickly, which is kind of telling about his own.
Because that was my experience of coming out also, is like being repulsed at first and then like very quickly understanding and accepting that part of myself. So
yeah, and also like these kinds of categories too, in these kind of other genders, in Europe in particular, you have the eunuch category. Like, this idea that there's only ever been two genders in European or biblical systems is absolute nonsense. Like, look up I think it's the book of Mark. I think it's chapter 20, or book of Matthew. I can't remember which one it is. But either way, when Jesus like particularly praises the eunuchs, right? And this was the justification for the castrati system that the Catholic Church enacted, which, if you don't know what that is, the castrati system was when they would take young boys who had incredible singing voices, and they would ask them, would you like to keep that voice in service of God
in perpetuity?
In perpetuity, and then they would like castrate them so they had no genitals, so that for the rest of their lives they basically would have no testosterone dose and their voice wouldn't change, and they would stay essentially kind of like that high pitched voice. It does change a little, but it doesn't change as much.
Yeah, I mean they grow. They still grow.
Yeah.
But not as much as they would have.
Right. So there's this kind of like loneliness and isolation for these two, in that they don't really neatly fit into these categories exactly. And I thought also really what was really unique about this vampire system that is different from like Stephen King or Buffalo Hunter, which Buffalo Hunter had its own really interesting.
Oh, dude, they're
yeah. If you didn't watch the episode on that, I think it's episode 13.
Check it out.
It's really interesting.
That book rules.
But like in summary, it's like you are what you eat. If you feed on an animal, you become animal-like. If you feed on a
white dude,
you become a white dude.
Yeah.
If you feed on an Indian, you become an Indian. So it's like that was like a really interesting system. And this one, like, it's kind of like centering around the isolation of consumption, right, and capitalism, right, and this idea that like you are forced to navigate this system.
That's true.
You don't have a choice. You either eat the blood of others or you die. And I think there's a moment, and we didn't talk about this, that I thought was really important with Thomas. In that Ellie at one point realizes she doesn't want to be this killer anymore. She wants to find another way. So she happens to have a lot of money because the guy who turned her was like a baron or a count or something, some sort of royalty, local royalty or whatever. And she's been around for like 250 years. And so she decides that like to talk to Thomas and pays Thomas like a lot of money, like thousands of dollars, to cut a chunk out of his elbow.
Oh
And
no,
just
Tommy, not Tomas.
Tommy, yes, Tommy. Sorry.
Yes, yeah, exactly. She feeds off of Tommy.
She feeds off Tommy without like infecting him,
Mhm.
and just like sucks on the wound, doesn't bite or anything like
Mhm.
that. And he's like real hesitant at first, and he's like, and she's like, well, do you like, I'll give you more money, and he's like, okay,
Yeah.
and he kind of goes for it, and like that's actually like, she feeds on him, he falls asleep, and then that's when the zombie gets accidentally trapped in there with the poor guy.
Yeah.
That scene is like, man, I really was like rooting for that kid, and I'm so glad he like survived it.
Oh
but,
my
man,
God, right?
the fucking trauma out of that. I just can't imagine, like, because like the cop comes in and the zombie is like still like, it's like a vampire zombie. It's like not a zombie exactly.
Well, I mean, it is a zombie because it's an undead thing that you can't kill unless you burn it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have like the sentience of
that's
a
true.
vampire.
It is basically it is a zombie.
It's
right?
it's like what would happen if you had to fight a zombie from The Walking Dead and you couldn't like kill it by killing its brain. It just keeps getting up and coming at you.
It's a Return of the Living Dead zombie. You ever see that?
It really is, yeah.
Right? So the Return of the Living Dead, if you guys don't know, it's the 80s film. There was like a whole lawsuit between Romero and his co-writer, and one of them got like Living Dead and the other one got Dead. So that's why you have a series of movies in the 80s. It's like Day of the Dead versus
Dawn of the Dead.
Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead, Diary of the Dead, which is like a bunch. I was into zombies for a while.
No, and the Diary of the Dead was okay. There was also that one with like the fucking like big office building tower. I feel like John Leguizamo might have been in it.
There's the mall one too, is the famous one.
The mall one is great. Well, the first one. The second one with that Zack Snyder directed was fine. Like the first 2/3 of it are great, and then the last third is bad.
But yeah, so
it's a Zack Snyder movie.
So anyway, in the Return of the Living Dead, the zombies don't die no matter what the fuck you do to them.
Yeah.
You have to essentially cremate them, and they actually do cremate the zombie, and that's actually what like the chemicals in the zombie spread around and it causes the whole plague.
Exactly.
By cremating the zombie.
Yeah, it becomes airborne.
It becomes an airborne infection.
Yeah.
And so it actually makes the situation worse. But it's those kind of zombies, the ones that you simply cannot stop. And this guy is like that. Now he didn't know that you could just have burned the body, but then also how would he burn the body?
Yeah, he had like a little big lighter in a fucking room.
Man. I thought for sure he was gonna light him on fire, but then I was like, fuck, he's trapped in there.
Yeah, of course he's not gonna do that.
So, but that scene was like, man, okay. And then of course there was like the scene with the cats.
Okay, so Virginia goes over to this one piece of shit boyfriend's friend's house to kill him.
He's a cat man.
He's a cat man. He's got like 27 cats in his fucking apartment. And the second she goes in there, they all react to her because she's like a threat to them or a perceived threat. And they just swarm her. So her piece of shit boyfriend's there. His buddy who sucks is there. And like the boyfriend's trying to take the cats off of her, but he can't get them off. So he starts like punching them and stuff like that, like hitting them with things and everything. And then his friend who sucks is like, no, my precious cats, I need all of them, even though they reproduce my apartment and then their babies are just stillborn because I'm a fucking terrible cat owner.
Yeah.
And
they're incestuous cats.
They're like probably 5 generations incestuous cats.
It's super like
it's fucked up.
It's super gross.
Yeah, it's disgusting. His place smells like piss and everything. That's why she was gonna like eat him. And she's like, nobody's gonna miss this dude.
Well, she finds out.
I think is his name.
Yeah, and she finds out. So she gets infected and she can't figure out what the fuck has happened to her. So she starts like cutting herself and she like licks the blood.
Yeah.
And then she gradually realizes that she's a vampire.
Yeah.
Like
she even tries to go to work one day.
Yeah.
Like in the daytime.
Right. And
sprints there.
Of course, like is like burning up and this because the sun. This is definitely a vampire story where the sun is super.
Doesn't
bad.
make you sparkle.
It doesn't make you sparkle. It makes you burn to death.
Yeah.
But
anyway, so like she eventually just has to like claw her way out of there. I mean, just like her being swarmed by cats, covered in fucking cats, like punting them and shit like that. It's just like it's very vividly described and very entertaining.
Yeah. It was an interesting scene, but I think also like her Laka is her boyfriend, and like Laka is like a poor guy who has a book of stamps that he like inherited from his dad, and that's how he pays
That's
his
how
way
he
through the
lives
world.
his life.
That's how he lives his life.
Selling his dad's stamps
Selling
one
stamps.
by one.
And
Fucking loser, dude.
Yeah,
Oh,
he
God.
is. I don't know. Like there was something about him. Like
He's
yes,
like
he's a loser, but he's very sympathetic at the same time.
I don't know. I think he's just like he's described as like a guy who doesn't want to work, who loves to read and be drunk. And I think there's something like kind of anti-socially appealing about that. But I've known too many people who are like that, who are like fucking also up their own ass about how noble they are, you know?
That's
but
true.
they don't contribute to anything ever. The one time we see him interacting with someone he doesn't know, it's so he can scam a drink off of him. It's just like fucking. It happens to be Hawkins.
It happened to be Hawkins.
But yeah, I think he's a pathetic loser who thinks he's like an antisocial. He's like, what if James Dean's character from Rebel Without a Cause like grew up? You know, just like. Get a fucking life, dude.
Yeah.
He's a bad boyfriend, too. I don't like that.
Well, and in the end, he's kind of like realizing that he was a bad boyfriend, and he's kind of trying to turn over a new leaf, but this is like after Virginia's infected.
It's 100% the wrong time to do
It's like, he's like, he realizes he hates this town. It's this town that has been like, and I think his whole diatribe was just about like these kind of like, basically lower class towns that are poor and miserable, and everybody there.
They started off
struggling.
as a garden city and they became a fucking ghetto.
Right. It's like the projects, right?
Yeah.
Like they start out with this good intention of building these housing, and then eventually like they stop. They don't put any money into it. I don't mean.
Yeah, once they've built it, they just leave it.
They
alone.
just leave it alone, and then it eventually like.
He's not wrong in that regard,
right?
I don't think.
So he's like wanting to escape, and he realizes he's like turning over a new leaf, and because Virginia gets attacked, and that's what makes him realize he's been a shit. And then he's like, I'm gonna sell the most famous stamps, and we can go buy a cottage, and we can live together, and like we won't have to worry about money because like these stamps are apparently like the very first stamps that Sweden ever printed or something
shit,
like that. So he's like. So there's like definitely class commentary going on here with all this because every single character is broke
or working or like scraping by.
Right, scraping by. Right,
Yeah.
there's no one who is really well off there. I also wanted to talk about bullies because so I wrote this kind of thing like bullies are enforcers of the status quo. Their place within the status quo is insecure though. They really don't fit in either. So instead, they pretend to live the script and then become enforcers of the script, right? I think, in some cases, you might call them like if you look at high school and stuff, and you talk about like gender politics, they act as like gender police where they try to enforce masculinity and enforce certain kinds of normal behavior because they have a sneaking suspicion that something isn't right with the system in the back of their head, or maybe they're too dumb or not critical enough to really understand that. Yeah. And so they have this deep level of insecurity, and so their way of lashing out is by making sure everybody else conforms to this system. And anyone who's outside of the ordinary, like Oscar or Ellie, if they had a chance to encounter Ellie, it has to be basically put down because they're afraid of the system itself. And if they realize that they don't have to fit in this system, then they basically have been living a lie their whole life.
Absolutely. I feel like being a bully is a fundamentally conservative behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think for a lot of people who participate in like bullying behavior in their youth, it's because they do suspect that, I don't even know if they suspect that the system is rotten. I think they might just suspect that they might not be as useful to the system as they would hope, like they're dumb, like you said, or some other thing. They don't see added value in themselves. Mm-hmm. So they like offer basically without anybody asking to reinforce the strict tenets of the system.
Yeah.
As you were pointing out, like you're not doing gender well enough. You're not doing sports well enough or whatever. You're not like, you don't have enough school spirit,
Right.
So I'm going to come down on you.
Or they have
and when they grow up, they become the type of people that are commentators on Fox News, right? They're there to like
or cops.
Be dicks. Oh, or cops, absolutely. They're there to be dicks, make people feel bad about themselves, and like drive profit for their news, their news company, or like drive arrest rates for their like precinct that they work for. You know?
I mean, there's also the kind of, I mean, that's one kind of bully. There's also the kind of bully that has been like horribly abused and doesn't know what to do with their anger, and so then they lash out on everyone else as well.
I think that, I don't know if I would call that bullying behavior so much as like antisocial behavior that is driven by trauma.
Yeah.
And it can manifest like bullying, and sometimes it's, doing the same thing kind of accidentally, but it comes from a different place.
It's all Stephen King's
abused
bullies.
people, all of them.
All of them.
All of them.
Like, if you actually read about the terrible psychopaths of Stephen King, they all have a backstory of abuse, like every single one.
Yeah, I think he really saw that in his town. That was a shitty little town like this one.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, I think it's like an old whaling town or something like that, instead of being a suburb of a major city, but, it has a similar type of populace.
Yeah. Yeah, and I also think, like, we're talking about the 1980s. We're talking about...
Man, nobody bullied like 80s teens, man. Oh my God.
Yeah. Felt like it. I mean, we grew up in the 80s, so...
No, we were born in the 80s.
We grew up
in the 90s.
We grew up in the 90s.
Yeah.
I mean,
The 90s teens weren't quite as bad, but they still sucked.
Yeah.
But just watch a John Hughes movie.
Yeah. All the Brat Pack movies.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I think there's also two kind of things going on here at the same time. We have the tail end of the Cold War, and I would actually argue that, at least until recently, this was the height of nationalism. Because it's in the 1970s and 80s that neoliberalism really starts to take hold and erode the power of the kind of the nation state.
That's an interesting point. I was gonna say that I feel like 2003 was like a crazy nationalistic time.
Well,
just post 9/11, going into Iraq, man, like, don't say shit about shit back then, man.
But I think the war on terror isn't necessarily it's not exactly a nationalistic war. It's kind of a globalist war, like trying to take control of Middle East, especially the Iraq war, right?
They really used like nationalist fervor to drive like approval from the Congress and enlistment in that war.
Yeah. I think, and I guess it's a continuation of that. I think that when you get this height of nationalism, the thing that nationalism does, it really needs an other to function.
Absolutely.
It has to, like, we're not talking about, like, tribalism has been a part of the human experience for a very long time. That's, like, fear of the person that you don't know, the stranger, this other group over here, that they're different than us. That's certainly been a thing. But the entire war machine of nationalism needs an other in order to function.
I mean, that's why Israel be like Israel, like they have a very convenient other that they're apparently like rubber stamped to persecute and genocide until like the end of that. Mm-hmm. As a way to maintain solidarity within the country,
mm-hmm.
So that, like, I guess Benjamin Netanyahu can just be president for life or whatever.
Well, he has to, otherwise he goes to jail.
That's fucking true.
Right. So, like, I mean, he's the same position as Trump.
Yeah.
He goes to jail if he doesn't...
Well, no, Trump doesn't go to jail.
Trump doesn't go to jail.
Because fucking Merrick Garland is, like, I don't know, the worst person ever, man. Yeah. Fuck that guy so hard. You could have put Trump in prison, motherfucker. What were you thinking? You dipshit. Now we're stuck in this mess.
Yeah.
Fuck you specifically, you one guy.
That's how you really feel, Matt.
No, I don't want to. I don't have that kind of time.
But, like, tying this back to the actual book and vampires, like, this... what a vampire is essentially they're a stateless person.
Yeah.
Like they're and if they're from the country that they're from, like this, like Ellie is from Sweden, it sounds like. This is what we call an internally displaced person. This is a person who is forced to kind of wander around without any identity or hope for any kind of long-term gain. And that's the Palestinians right there.
Or the Incredible Hulk.
Or the Incredible Hulk, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But Oh, the Hulk has a little bit more ability to stand up for himself.
I'm talking about the Incredible Hulk from the TV show, The Incredible Hulk, where he just has to wander from place to place, like the guy from Kung Fu, solving a different town's problems every day, because he's too destructive to live in one place.
Or Quantum Leap.
Quantum Leap is an intro. Oh. Yeah.
He's timeless.
The Fugitive, The Incredible Hulk, and Quantum Leap are all the same show with different levels of sci-fi.
Yeah, that's right.
Cool. I love that.
Yeah. But yeah, so like you have this kind of, so here's another thing too. We talk about the other in anthropology in particular. So the other is either viewed as like extractive or parasitical, like they're taking our benefits, they're taking our jobs, they're leeches on society, which like that's what a vampire is, right? It feeds on society.
Yeah, in Buffalo Hunter x Hunter, he has to feed on his own tribe if he wants to stay himself.
Right.
And in this, she has to feed to live, and she's literally like the most strongly delineated illustration of what it's like to live under capitalism. You have to leech off of other people if you want to succeed in capitalism.
Yeah. So that's like the first half. And the second half is that they are a contagion that you must quarantine from yourself from. Mm-hmm. Which you hear this discussion about immigrants all the time, right? First, they're taking all the free benefits that they can get. They can't get any of those.
No, they're a net positive to any economy. They can't get social services, but they still have to pay income tax.
Well, not only
it's automatic out of their checks and shit.
And not only that, they are like far less likely to commit a crime, because if your status is uncertain, you don't want to make trouble because that gets you kicked out.
Absolutely.
So they are far less likely on average to commit crimes than an actual
literally like
citizen.
1/3 is likely. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a really small number actually. And of course, we've talked about before when we talked about Grapes of Wrath all the way back in episode 5, which was like a year ago.
What the fuck? Are you?
That was
really?
a year ago. Yeah.
Wow. That book, I feel like I just read that. That thing stuck.
I know it did. It really did. But like in Grapes of Wrath, if you keep someone stateless, if you keep someone in a vulnerable, then you can exploit them in all manner of ways without consequences. Mm-hmm. And we kind of see this like towards the end of the book when Håkon becomes the zombie. His like raw desire comes out and tries to rape Ellie.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like that's what he's been about the whole time.
Yeah,
like she uses the idea of her body to kind of like motivate him to get her food.
Yeah,
because she can't easily feed on her own. Because she's small.
Actually, as we see throughout the book, that's a great point. She like tries to eat Virginia and is interrupted in the middle of that. She tries to kill by draining him Håkon and is interrupted in the middle of that. I wonder if it's just like a size thing, if she can't like extract it fast enough, because like,
well, she's definitely strong. She rips the guy's heads off.
No, I mean like big enough.
Yeah.
Like her lungs are like whatever. I don't know what the mechanism for like draining someone's blood is in this universe, but like,
well, and
it seems like she can't do it very efficiently whenever she tries to do it herself.
Right. She has a really hard time.
Yeah.
She does successfully kill one of the drunk guys right near the beginning of the book.
Oh yeah.
And
was that Yuska? I forget.
No, that wasn't Yuska. I don't remember.
Yuska's the one with the cats, right?
But he disappears. Yuska's the one who sees. Because remember, so Yuska's the witness and says, I saw this little girl lure him, I forget what his name was, into like this tunnel, and he goes into the tunnel and he never comes out.
Yeah.
And so he's afraid to report. I can't remember why. He's like afraid they'll think he's crazy, because he is. He's crazy. He's literally...
No, Yuska is the cat one.
He's cat shit crazy.
Yeah.
Instead of bat shit.
But cat shit everywhere.
But anyway, so like Ellie like pretends to be like an injured little girl, and he pulls him up into her arms to try to carry him to safety, and that's when she latches on. But like, this is not like the vampire story where they relax and just kind of like take it. This is the vampire story where like the person screams horribly the second and tries to fight with every ounce of their strength. And so you have to imagine that if Ellie is already weak from not having fed,
Right.
she probably can't really effectively like pin her victim down.
That's true, because actually every time we see her try to feed on someone, she is also
weak.
like fairly weak.
Right.
Yeah.
Like running out of time.
Yeah, because mostly she's been hanging out with Oscar instead of like preying on the town.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think she just also legitimately doesn't want to hurt people.
I think you're right.
And, you know, and that kind of gets into the whole thing. Like, all the vampires... So she meets an elder woman vampire at one point. She mentions this to Oscar. Or who does she mention it to? I can't remember. Maybe it's Oscar.
I think it is, yeah.
But she mentions this, and she says, well, he's like, well, what happened? And she says, well, I asked if there were a lot of us around, and she says no, and then she kills herself by burning herself to death.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, these vampires are not... It is not like in Salem's Lot. We were talking about this before. It's not like Salem's Lot where these are like, I'm a vampire, I'm going to fuck shit up now.
Absolutely.
These are vampires where like, fuck, I have to kill people. That sucks. I can't have any kinds of relationships because I can barely control myself. Like, there's several times when Ellie almost eats Oscar.
Uh-huh.
And it's like... You know, like, really is very... Like, Oscar at one point, like, wants to become blood brothers.
Well, yeah, he wants to make a blood pact.
Blood pact. Yeah. And cuts himself, and Ellie, like, loses her mind. Yeah. And is just like, get the fuck away from me.
Yeah,
and then
like
that's...
Down on all fours.
Down on all fours, like, growling.
Run away.
Like, yeah. Like, and that actually, like that's when Oscar realizes, like, oh, this is a vampire.
Yeah.
Like, that was like when he first really understood what was going on. But yeah, so these are the kind of vampires that commit suicide. Virginia ultimately commits suicide, like, by like...
She's like strapped down in the hospital. They take her to the hospital
after the cat incident.
After the cat incident.
Yeah.
And she's like so resistant to going there because there's so many people there. That they have to like tie her down because she like fucks people up, and then she asks a nurse to open the window, like to draw the curtains, and just burns
it, explodes in the plane.
Yeah,
I mean, she knew what she was doing.
Oh yeah,
she was just like, well, because she was like, what am I supposed to do? Kill people? Like, am I supposed
forever?
Am I supposed to eat people forever?
Yeah.
Like, that's horrible.
Yeah,
and it's like, you know, if you think about it, if you think about the vampire as like the curse and not as like the happy-go-lucky I sparkle in the sunshine Twilight.
This vampire is more like the werewolf from like the Wolfman, where it's like it's a fucking curse and
sucks.
You can't get rid of it.
You can't get
and
stuck.
you will inevitably kill somebody even though you don't want to.
Which is like capitalism.
It truly is, man.
I mean,
to be honest, those two running away kind of reminded me of Frankenstein's monster and the Bride in the movie The Bride that just came out.
Have you seen it?
Fucking slaps.
It was good?
It's so good.
Oh
my god. It's like as good as Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein was bad.
Oh.
Yeah. They're like Bonnie and Clyde.
Bonnie and Clyde.
They just like drive around, do crimes, say fuck the man. And it's shot in parts like the 1966 Bonnie and Clyde movie with Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway. It like looks so goddamn good, man. Annette Bening is the mad scientist that brings her to life in it. Christian Bale is an amazing Frankenstein's monster.
Well,
man.
Christian Bale, for all the ways he's an asshole, he's also an incredible actor.
Oh, he's one of the best. Absolutely. Yeah, great movie. But like they're doing the same thing. They're like, we know that we're gonna be inevitably be hurting people so that we can live, but we're just gonna run away and live because of what else can we do?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and it's, you know, and I think, you know, obviously, like, after Oscar is almost murdered and drowned, what else is he going... He's never going to be, like...
He can't go to that school anymore.
He can't go to that... He can't live in that place anymore.
No, man.
Like, so that was it. I mean, they burned their bridges and they moved on. And, you know, you see him, and he's on the train, like, the last scene, and, like, the guy's, like, taking the ticket, and he's like, that kid is, like, really happy.
That kid with a giant trunk is really happy. He's
carrying around Ellie in the trunk.
Yeah.
He's like, how are you going to manage? He's like, I'll manage.
I'll find someone to help me. Don't worry about me.
Yeah, and then I think the last thing we have to kind of talk about is like the transgender angle here, because this is obviously a a trans character, like if you talk about like a very classical sense of being transgender,
Yeah, like being born with male genitalia and then living life as like for 100 years or whatever as like a little girl.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
I read it as like preferring to live as a girl in society.
Yeah, and I think I kind of read it as almost Ellie being gender neutral. But like I think when you pointed out, because we were talking about this before, and you very clearly pointed out, like every time Ellie is given the opportunity to pick clothes in the story, she picks girl clothes.
Yeah.
But I also have to ask, is her identification as a young girl a matter of survival? Because a young girl who is attractive and pretty and looks cute and sweet is going to be much more likely to get help and survive from adults rather than a young boy, because
I think that's a very fair point. I think even in moments where she doesn't have to interact with anybody but Oscar, she still chooses like Oscar's mom's clothes in one scene.
That's true. Yeah,
stuff like that.
A sundress.
Yeah. So I think it's a matter of like probable like identification with the female gender, but they do at several points in the novel also say, I am neither a boy nor a girl. So that reads as like indie to me a little bit, like non-binary.
Yeah.
But like leaning towards feminine
presentation, but non-binary.
Yeah. Which is, like a lot of people that would fit into that same box.
Yeah.
I think it's a really like her motivations and like the origins of that for her are really interesting. Like I don't know if that would have been the case, in like 1750 or whatever, when she was born and then this terrible thing happened to her because of a feudal lord. By the way, like the allegorical like ramifications of a feudal lord doing that sort of thing as like a vampire, very similar to how they operated in real life. Like you did not want to live in a fiefdom back in the day. That shit would have sucked.
Yeah. Yeah, but we can have techno feudalism if you want, man.
We have it. We have it now. And it's terrible.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting to wonder the author's intent here. Like,
yeah, in 2004, we were not having this conversation.
We were not having conversations openly.
No.
I mean, obviously, trans people have been around forever.
Oh, yeah.
And there are many cultures and categories. I mean, there's so many additional genders.
There are historical records of crazy numbers of genders and crazy numbers of societies.
Yep.
Like, this is not a new thing, and it's not a threatening thing. Yeah. You guys do not worry about kids turning out to be trans. It's fine.
The travesti in Brazil.
Yeah.
The Hijra in India and Pakistan.
I was going to say that one, yeah.
The Two-Spirited, which is the name that Native Americans have taken to represent a wide variety of different non-binary gender practices across, hundreds of cultures.
Yes.
Like, I mean, there are 574 federally recognized Native American tribes, about 100 more that still exist that are not federally recognized, which is a whole other discussion. But like, not all of them had additional genders, but the majority did.
Yeah.
And the Bible had more than two genders.
Yes, exactly.
I have a friend who's he is like super, like very well read in the Bible. He has a PhD. And he claims that there are, and I'm not verifying this because I don't know for sure, but he claims that there are 11 distinct genders in the Bible presented.
I'm not surprised, man.
And like if you count also angels and stuff, there's all kinds of stuff.
Oh man, so they're just like beings made out of eyes or whatever. I don't know.
Right? Yeah, like the angels in the Bible they're terrifying.
Metal as hell.
Yeah, like they're like a what is it called? The guy who designed the alien, what's his name? Geiger.
Oh, H.I. Geiger, yeah.
It's like Geiger, Escher, and...
I heard it was Giger the other day.
Is it Giger?
We've been saying it wrong all this time.
Oh, well.
But anyway, yeah.
It's like yes! Escher, Geiger, and like weird...
And like Pollock all mixed together.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
it's,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's like the angel.
Barely a shape, made of eyes, operates in like 12 different dimensions.
Yeah, they're very interesting. Which is why, like, conspiracy theorists say they think they're UFOs and stuff, right? Because we can't possibly have mythology of strange things.
No one could ever come up with a monster like that. Lovecraft. Oh, excuse me.
I know, but like Lovecraft also had to like refute his own mythology because people actually thought it was a real thing. Because there was like
that's what I'm saying.
There was like cults popping up surrounding Lovecrafty, the Necronomicon and stuff. Like when I was a teenager, I met a kid who like had like I didn't know anything about Lovecraft at the time yet, and he told me like all about the Necronomicon and how it was real and like pieces of it were stashed in parts of Colorado, and I was like, "What are you talking about, dude?"
Come on.
So, but yeah, like it's really interesting how that lore can just get away from you. But yeah, it's hard to know what the authorial intent is behind like injecting what is very clearly a transgender character in 2004.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that was just like the author was like way ahead of their time, or it was like the eunuch as like a lonely, isolated, wounded person.
That I think is probably more like closer to.
I agree. It's probably more related to that. But in any case, like it certainly allows you to be thinking about like the in mainstream status quo European-based society, regardless of the fact that they've had additional genders for like thousands of years, like this still like place these individuals as kind of an other and like fantasized and sexualized them in a lot of ways.
I think your allusion to like participants in a freak show earlier was really right on the money, because like there is something very alluring about and like erotic about people who are very clearly outside of your normal like everyday life, who live a different way. That's why like kids always fantasize about running away to the circus, right? Because it's like it's different all the time. And that's extreme. That's we call exotic things, like exotic is almost a synonym for like sexy,
Yeah.
But exotic also means like markedly different. And I think that he was probably drawing on the dynamic there, the like two sides of the coin of like exotic being sexy but also lonely, because you by virtue of being exotic do not fit into the place that you are inhabiting at that moment. And the
exoticization
there you go
of difference is also really dangerous.
Absolutely.
Like the most murdered and sexually assaulted group in this country are Indigenous women. So much. I was going to say
also trans women.
And trans women, yeah. They so much so that here in Denver we have the nonprofit Murdered and Missing Indigenous Women, because it is such a problem. And so like making this, it's like, did you ever see Monsters Ball?
Oh yeah, long time.
Yeah, with Halle Berry and
Heath Ledger and
no, it was Billy Bob Thornton, wasn't it?
Yeah, Heath Ledger's the cop though.
Oh yeah, he is.
Or he's not a cop. He's like a prison guard.
Yeah.
He's so good in that
but
movie.
It is like, here's this racist who also like fantasizes about sex with a black woman, and it's like, I mean, that's
dude. I'm sorry. Like I saw that movie one time, and her like. The only thing she says in a very prolonged sex scene in that movie is "make me feel good," and that's stuck with me for like 25 years.
Yeah, it's a hard to watch.
It was
a really hard to. It's not one I think I
watched it the one time.
Yeah,
but lived rent free in my brain, man.
Yeah. So, but it's that kind of thing where you exoticize this thing, and then that thing must become your possession because you've now violated a cultural norm, and because you violated a cultural norm, you essentially have to take control of that thing. And some people will try and like make that thing, quote, civilized or normal or various other things. Because if they have this because there's a problem with them internally.
Right.
So it's like, oh, I slept with a trans person. Well, now I have to try to make that trans person normal. I can't just accept that person is different.
Or that I might be queer.
And the exoticism in the first place is making that person into an object anyway.
Yeah. A fetish object.
It's a fetish. It's an object of like desire and like transcending your own boundaries and limits and all this other stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Which gets back into the Mary Douglas thing. Like when you other something, when you make it a pollutant, you also kind of like heighten it in your culture. You make it an important figure. It's like for like a racist, for example, like the most important thing to their identity is the object of their scorn.
The only thing they'll ever talk about is like whatever they're racist against, Yeah. They'll just talk about how, like, anytime you want to strike up a conversation with your racist uncle, I bet you're going to hear about some racist shit he's thinking about,
Yeah. Well, it's the same thing with like super far right Trump supporters, right? They can never shut up about it.
Yeah.
They only ever want to talk about this thing because they have made this thing their whole identity, because a part of them recognizes that something is not right, and so they have to continually double down.
It's like they get fixated on it and they just gotta pick at it all the goddamn time.
Yeah, it's like a scab that won't heal.
You want to talk about how fun the new Superman movie was, but all they want to talk about is how like Superman's a cuck now or whatever, or like how Lex Luthor, got a raw deal or some shit, like
is people really saying that?
I don't know.
Lex
I was just making some shit up.
No, but
because he's clearly a Mark Zuckerberg,
he's a tech
/ Elon Musk guy, and always has been. By the way,
always. He
was an industrialist from the beginning who like had unscrupulous practices, and that's why Superman fucked with him. But they're like now all of a sudden billionaires are bad. I was like, no, dude. Billionaires have always been bad, and Superman has always been against capitalists. In like the third issue, he locks some fucking mine owners in a goddamn mine because they have unsafe practices down there. He's like, now you know what it feels like, motherfuckers. He didn't say motherfuckers, but...
No, he's too nice.
He's too nice. He's such a sweet boy.
Yes.
But, yeah, no, I mean, that's always been his thing. This isn't some new woke shit. He was always woke, is what I'm trying to say. They didn't add truth, justice, and the American way until like the 1950s when the Cold War was happening.
Mm-hmm. Well, and a lot of things changed in the 1950s, right?
Yeah.
That's when we got In God We Trust on money and all kinds of stuff.
Absolutely. Saying the pledge in school.
The pledge in school. And also they added the line, one nation under God, which wasn't in there before.
Uh-huh.
Which
is why the meter's bad.
Invisible.
Yeah.
What?
Which is why the meter is bad in that.
Yep, exactly. It doesn't actually flow correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure, like you, I grew up having to say the pledge every day.
Every goddamn day.
Yeah.
Until I was an 8th grader and I got kind of punk about it and refused. But, yeah.
We didn't do it in middle school.
You didn't do it in middle school? We had to do it in
elementary
middle school.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. Which, being in conservative Castle Rock, you think that we would.
You would think, man. I was in Lakewood, which is also conservative.
Yeah. But yeah, so I think a lot of this book is really about the other. It's about isolation and loneliness and what happens when you as a person simply do not fit neatly into a particular category.
It also feels to me kind of like I don't know, like a soft or like weak indictment of suburbia, but I'm not really sure. It was so sporadic, its criticism of the suburbs, that I'm not really sure if it lands, if it works all the way. He's always taking the fucking subway, man. Like, are you really the burbs if you got subways?
I didn't really.
That just feels like an outer borough to me.
I guess it's like an outer borough of Stockholm is what it felt like.
Yeah.
Because a couple of times he mentions, I'm just west of Stockholm.
Yeah, but I'm thinking more about the piece of shit boyfriend who's like, he goes on this like drunken sort of rant about like garden cities and stuff like that, and how they have bad math, which also reminded me of Lovecraft, actually.
Yeah.
What's the one with the insane geometry and Brown Jenkins?
I'm not as well read in Lovecraft.
Oh, all right, no worries. Kira would know.
I've read a couple of Lovecraft stories, but like some of them are so overtly racist that it's just hard.
You know what? There are some for sure, but some of them are, hitting just more like 80s action movies where they're like, you're like, there's some racism here, but there's also some like good enough stuff that it's okay, you know? Red Hook is a good example of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yeah, I thought it was. I don't know. We're not wrapping up right now, are we?
We can if you want.
No, I was gonna say that, like, yeah, I feel like it's got a middling critique of suburbia
Mm-hmm.
and a strong critique of capitalism
Mm-hmm.
in it,
Mm-hmm.
and those were my main impressions. I thought, yeah, and I think you're right. It's more about like the loneliness of being an exotic person, especially like you said with Indigenous women in Colorado, like exoticized in your own fucking lands, man. Like that's fucked up.
Yeah, it's like another layer of it
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
All right.
Final thoughts?
I think those were it.
Those were your final thoughts?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I really liked it. I think I also am more horror genre than you are.
Maybe. I don't know.
What did you like better, Buffalo Hunter Hunter or this?
Buffalo Hunter Hunter by a mile, man. Like,
see, I put them at the same, but for very different reasons.
yeah, I don't know, man. I just thought like Buffalo Hunter Hunter had a better like, I don't know, approach to vampirism.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe a more layered one. Also, the system of like vampiric activity was like so well thought out.
It was.
It had a fun like 3 time periods thing going on, which I really enjoyed.
Mm-hmm.
Like stories within stories within stories. So, like the structure was really cool.
And also, he tells you all about what he was doing at the end, which is really.
I liked the essay at the end. Absolutely, the afterward was really good.
I have to say, just in general, I think the one thing I really love about King is he always gives you an essay.
Oh yeah.
And any author who I to the point where I've like started to do it on my own book.
It's like they love writing so much they can't stop even after the story's done.
That's right.
You know,
yeah.
It's like they're like, I got one more.
I'm gonna tell you a little bit about what this story came from. Or
exactly. I got 20 more pages in me. I gotta.
Well, and Stephen Graham Jones also gave you like the most lengthy acknowledgments with specific references I've ever read in my entire life.
Absolutely.
He's like, here, you know what? Maybe that's like. And maybe it's like related to like his own indigenous culture, where he gives like you the whole lineage of his ancestors,
right.
the ancestors of his story, as it were.
Yeah,
which is a really interesting way to pay homage to like your literary, forebears.
Absolutely, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I thought it was worth reading, and I definitely, if you love vampire stories, I think there's some really, really interesting stuff. I think the idea of the vampire not being a glamorous thing, but rather like a curse that you can't escape. I think that's an interesting angle. I've seen that elsewhere before. I just can't.
I mean, Buffalo Hunter Hunter kind of does that too.
Buffalo Hunter Hunter definitely does that. No,
I think you're right. I feel like I've read something else where it was just like, this is nasty. You don't want to fuck with it.
Yeah, I just can't think off the top of my head.
I feel like...
I mean, I've seen a lot of vampire movies.
Yeah, and I'm also... Like, 30 Days of Night came to mind, but I'm like, I don't know.
No, they kind of like it.
Yeah.
I mean, and you think of, like, John Carpenter's vampires, they love killing.
They for sure do.
Yeah, and a lot of vampire lore, they're like demons who enjoy the torture and killing. Like, from dusk till dawn, they get off on that shit.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you seen
or, like,
Sinners?
Lost Boys. Sinners is great.
I have not seen Sinners.
Oh, you should... What the fuck were you doing, man? That was playing in theaters all summer.
I know. I didn't get around to it.
Wow.
I
have a friend who saw it like 12 times because she has a horror class
Janae?
that she teaches. No, not Janae. Esty.
Esty. Okay.
A colleague of Kira's. Yeah.
Yeah. So. All right. Well, our next book is very thematically different.
Oh, very.
A Gentleman in Moscow.
Yeah, absolutely. It was like one of my favorite books of like, I want to say like 3 or 4 years ago. It was the first time I read it.
I have not read it.
It's fantastic. I'm reading it again. It totally holds up. It's about an aristocrat who during the Russian Revolution kind of participated a little bit, but then after the fact, like immigrated to Paris for a little while. And when he comes back home, when his family's in danger, he gets caught up by the revolutionaries and tried for his activities. But because he did participate early on, they sentenced him to live in the Metropole Hotel, a 5-star hotel that is, losing a little bit of its luster in the communist era. But it's about a guy who's who has to live in one place and change as a person to like adapt to his circumstances. It's the only time I've ever really felt sympathy for an aristocrat in a story.
Whoa, that's a big deal for you.
I think it is. He's extremely charming and likable, and I don't want to say any more about it. But yeah, I think in this case, the power that he is reacting to is a new type of state power that is starting to feel itself maybe a little too much.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. And then our following book is Paradise Lost. Those episodes are already scheduled. You can find them on our YouTube channel.
Sorry, this one was late. I got sick last week. My wife and I got really bad food poisoning.
Yeah.
Thanks, RFK Jr.
It's all his fault.
I think so, probably.
All right.
All of the regulators, all of the people who are in charge of that shit.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time.
Slanchava, everybody.
A Gentleman in Moscow. Okay.
Not too bad. We didn't have anybody watching, but it got rescheduled.
Yeah,
so I'm
I
not
think.
surprised.
Yeah, and I didn't really promo it